Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Raghasudha, Head and Assistant Professor, Department of Microbiology, Government City College, Hyderabad, is here to talk on infection and host pathogen interaction. Infection. The invasion and multiplication of microorganisms such as bacteria, virus, and parasites that are not normally present within the body is known as infection. Otherwise, infection is also known as a cause of no symptoms and by subclinical existence of these microorganisms, or it may cause symptoms and be clinically apparent. An infection may remain localized or it may spread through the blood or lymphatic vessels to become systematic throughout the body. Microorganisms that live naturally in the body are not considered infection. Means the presence of normal flora of the microorganisms on an individual body is not an infection. Example, bacteria that normally live within the mouth, intestine, and skin are not infections. Pathogenicity. The ability of a microbe to cause disease is known as pathogenicity. An organism that harms its host and causes the disease is referred to as pathogen. The capability to produce disease is associated with the inherent characteristics of the organism in an effort to survive inside the host. Next, virulence. The noun virulence is derived from the adjective virulent, which means disease severity. The word virulent is derived from the Latin word virulentus, which means a poisoned wound or full of poison. In biology, virulence is defined as the degree by which a pathogenic organism can cause disease. Virulence is a pathogen's or microorganism's ability to cause damage to the host systems. In most contexts, especially in animal systems, virulence refers to the degree of damage caused by the host to it, microbe to its host. The pathogenicity of an organism, its ability to cause disease, is determined by its virulence factor. What is virulence factor? Pathogenic organisms has a different breadth of virulence. Each type of microorganism causes various degrees of pathogenicity on its host. For example, a strain of bacteria may be more virulent than the other strain of the same species. The virulence of a pathogen is often correlated with the so-called virulence factor. A virulence factor is thus defined as a factor that enables an organism to invade a host and cause disease. It also determines the extent of damage to the host. These factors may be secretory, membrane associated, or cytosolic in nature. An example of a virulence factor is the ability of the microbe to multiply within their host cell. In microbiology, these factors are considered as vital to epidemiology, particularly when tracking a novel pathogenic strain. Viral virulence factors, for instance, are chiefly proteins that are incited by the infective virus to be produced by the host's own protein machinery. Whereas bacterial virulence factors are likewise proteins that are coded by the bacterial own genes and by plasmids that they acquire via horizontal gene transfer. Now moving on to host pathogen relationships. A healthy individual is infected and are being infected anew constantly. Some of these organisms may be pathogens more frequently among the transient flora group. Some among the normal flora may be opportunistic. So, the relationship between microbes and us is very dynamic. There is a balance between the disease causing properties of the microbe and the antimicrobial defenses of the host. This particular point is very important to remember the balance between these two relationships. The disease causing property of the microbe is balanced with the antimicrobial defense of the host, which makes them opportunities or normal flora of an organism. What are the types of host pathogen relationships? We come across four different types of host pathogen relationships, namely symbiosis, mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. Symbiosis is an involved interaction or close living relationship between organisms from different species, usually with benefits to one or both of the individuals involved. In simple, symbiosis is living together. Symbiosis may be obligate, in which case the relationship between the two species is so interdependent that each of the organisms is unable to survive without the other. Symbiosis may be of facultative type, in which the two species engage in a symbiotic partnership through choice and can survive individually too. Obligate symbiosis are often evolved over a long period of time, while facultative symbiosis may be more modern behavioral adaptations. Given time, facultative symbiosis may evolve into obligate symbiosis. The next type of interaction is mutualism. Mutualism is also a type of symbiosis in which both members benefit from the relationship. A very good example is association of bacteria like rhizobium with the higher plant roots of legumes. Most plants have a tropical mutualism called a mycorrhizal association, which is a symbiosis between the roots of the plants and the fungus. The fungus colonizes the plant's roots and is provided with carbohydrates, sucrose, and glucose. In exchange, the plant benefits from the fungus' higher water and mineral absorption capabilities. Next type of interaction is parasitism. It is the most familiar type of interaction, and parasitism is a relationship in which one member is benefited while the other one is harmed in some way. Parasitism is a non-mutualistic form of symbiosis occurring when one of the organism benefits at the expense of the other. Parasitism does not necessarily result in the direct death of the parasitized organism, and often it is imperative to the life cycle of the parasite to keep its host alive. So parasitism does not lead to death of the host always. Sometimes the parasitized host is killed as a result of parasitic invasion. In this case, the invader is known as parasitoid. Parasitism may involve direct infiltration of the host body to feed off tissue, influencing behaviors that benefit the parasite, or kleptoparasitism, in which the parasite steals food or other resources from a host. The fourth type of relationship is commensalism. It is a relationship in which one member benefits and the other one neither benefits nor is harmed, imposed on the idea of opportunism. Opportunism, these are the organisms that normally doesn't cause disease but will if given an opportunity, as in secondary infections. And if resistance is low, like pneumocystis carini, pneumonia in immunocompromised individuals. Commensalism is symbiosis in which one organism benefits from and is often completely dependent on the other for food, shelter, locomotion, with no obvious effects on the host. The relationship between whales and barnacles is an example of commensalism. The barnacles attack themselves to the tough skin of the whales and benefit from widespread movement and exposure to currents from which they feed, while the whale is seemingly unaffected by their presence. Thank you.